Okay, good morning. We're here, South Sound Connection number 9. I think I've mentioned before the intro music, the gritty intro music for South Sound Connection has been created by Pat Effin Brown from Cosmonaut Coffee there on Division Street. Let's see, it's 817 Division Avenue upstairs. So if you haven't been to Cosmonaut Coffee, do yourself a favor. Check that out. If I may, before we get rolling, just released my newest book, Be Intentional Culture. So this obviously isn't the book, but the paperback's not, it's out on Kindle. The paperback is under review and will be out shortly. I know everybody's on pins and needles waiting for that. So wanted to shout out, let me see if I can make this go away. This neat shirt from Never Heard is a local company that my daughter picked up for me. And so if you'd like to check out the book, the DYOJO.com/book 2. Let's see, we got the song from Cosmonaut. I actually picked up coffee from another spot right by us on Center Street is a new coffee shop, Wide Awake, or an old coffee shop revamp. So let me take a sip there. And I'm going to bring in our guest, Jack Cameron, our first guest of the day. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, well, so I did a little bit of research, contrary to popular opinion. So I found this article in the Daily Index where I always like to, if there's source material that references something that's already been discussed, I want to always point people to that. So you've got a great article in Tacoma Daily Index that talks about, boy, this is back from 2014. So how long have you been doing Tacoma Stories?
I've been doing it since 2006.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been like 15 years. It's been, well, it's a lot longer than I expected. Whenever I think about it, I'm like, wow, I don't even realize I've been doing it that long.
So what was the initial drive that got you rolling on that?
The initial thing was, and I can't remember, I would love to name check my friend for it, but it was a friend from Seattle who had this idea of Tacoma, of the early 90s Tacoma, where where there were shootings every night. And he had this really inaccurate view of Tacoma. And I said to him, we were at the Parkway drinking, and I said, you know what? I bet I could write about every single homicide that happens in Tacoma, and I wouldn't be all that busy. I bet I could do other things, And so then I decided to test that out. And so I started writing about homicides. And the thing that happened almost immediately was I realized that it mattered, that there were like the early ones, the very early ones. I think some of them I even rewrote because they weren't very well written, and I wasn't really paying attention to it. Nowadays, when I'm writing these things, the thing that makes mine different than like what you'll see in a newscast is I focus on the victim. I don't even mention. The only time I mention the killer is if they know that guy's name and they're looking for him. But other than that, I won't mention the killer's name. I focus on the victim. I get as much information as I can find on the victim. Sometimes there's a lot. Sometimes there's almost nothing. It just depends on, what research I can find out about what happened to them, who they were, that sort of thing. And what I've found is that there's a lot of like family members and friends of victims who find what I write comforting.
Sure.
And so they'll send me emails and whatnot, and it's it's because of that I can't stop. Like there's a part of me that would love to just not do it. But right now I'm way behind. But there's just I know that every single homicide, it's easy to just look past the headline and go, oh well, it's another drive-by shooting. But that person had family. That person had friends, and all of those people are never going to be the same because of this one homicide.
Yeah.
And these days they're happening more and more. There was one. There were 2 double shootings last night. And I think there's only one. I think there's only one death in those shootings so far. But yeah, it's just we're only 19 days into the year, and we've already had 2 homicides and about 4 almost homicides. So.
Oh, geez. So like serious injuries, those kinds of things.
Yeah. There's a woman who was. There's a woman who she's. My understanding is she's brain dead.
Mm.
And there's and like I said, last night there were 3 people who were shot that weren't killed, but or aren't dead yet. Last I heard, anyway.
3 separate incidents, or
there were 2 incidents last night. One was on the east side, I forget where. The other one was over by the Shell station over on 14th and Sprague, and both of those had 2 victims, and the one on Sprague, one of those victims died.
Wow.
But usually I am weeks, if not months, behind on reporting on homicides. Part of that is I'm doing other things, and the other part of that is just the time and research that it takes to.
Yeah. Well, like you said, there's not always a lot of information out there.
Right.
Well, you mentioned in that Tacoma Daily Index article, more importantly and specifically when it comes to these homicide victims, these are people who didn't want to go. It's different than a suicide. It's different than somebody dying of old age or something. Somebody else took these people out and they didn't want to go. I think their story deserves to be told as to who they were and what happened. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems kind of like a dark topic, and I'm sure there's times when it just hits you in the face, right? But your particular site, Tacoma Stories, you also try to tell some of the positive stories and those kinds of things. So I want to get to that. But before we do, I was looking into, so you're an author. Are you an author, editor by trade, right?
Yes.
So tell us about this book, Ruin Your Life.
Okay, I can tell you about it, but it's not easy to find these days. I've intentionally taken it out of print for a while, but
really?
Yeah. It's a book that I wrote in my 20s and published in my 30s. I'm in my 40s now. But it was it started out as an online column, and the idea was, if you're going to do something wrong, do it right.
Yeah.
And so the thing that was happening was I was back in my 20s, I was going on these benders where I would have a lot of fun, and then one of my friends would try to do the same thing, and they'd get in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
And so I was like, no, you're doing it all wrong. You got to do it like this, otherwise you're gonna get in trouble. And so I started writing this online column. I can't even remember what the website was for. The website's gone. It went away, and when it went away, somebody said, you should just turn it into a book. And so I did, and I didn't even try to publish it the traditional way. I just self-published because I was like, there's no way anyone's going to actually let me put this thing out. I mean, it had a lot of fun stuff in it, and it's a funny book, and I've had a lot of interesting comments about it.
Yeah. So will there be a Ruin Your Life 2 coming?
No. I've occasionally threatened it. I've occasionally suggested that I would write a book called Ruin Their Life that's all about revenge, but that seems like giving dynamite to children. I'm not sure I should.
Yeah. You said you're in your 40s. We're all kind of getting up there. Maybe it should be Pace Your Life as the sequel, right?
Right. Yeah, and but yeah, I'm a writer and editor by trade. And I'm going to Goddard College right now, about to get my MFA in creative writing.
Oh, wow. So. Very cool. Well, I hinted at, so we got the kind of your mission there to make sure the stories of those who have passed told from Tacoma. Have there been any like stories of resilience and things that came out of 2020 that stories kind of hit you?
Um, well, the thing that hit me, it's not a story of resilience. I guess the resilience is that we're still here.
Sure.
But like there were somewhere between 30 and 32 homicides in 2020 in Tacoma, just in Tacoma.
Wow.
And typically, like that's more than we had. Like to give you an idea, that's more than we had in 2016 and 2017 combined.
Oh,
Usually we have 12 to 15 homicides.
wow.
And so it's been going up and up and up. It's one of the reasons that I still have like 8 or 9 homicides to write about. And it's why I said 30 to 32, because some report 32, some report 30, and I don't know. I don't have any information about 2 of those homicides. Like if there are 32, I don't know what those 2 are or when they happened.
Yeah.
But the resilience aspect, it wouldn't be specific to 2020. It's just I've talked to so many people who've lost somebody. Yeah. And how they can and how they go on and how they support each other. There are a couple of people that like Shalisa Hayes, for example. She started the Billy Ray Shirley Foundation for her son, Billy Ray Shirley, who was killed years ago. And she's just been incredible. The way that she has responded to this senseless tragedy. But it's stuff like that. It's stuff where people take tragedies and turn them into something good. There's other than that, there's just like I've thought about expanding the Tacoma Stories thing a little bit. I've thought about getting an intern or something because like I said, I'm kind of behind on these things, and and sometimes it matters to be there to get it there quick. There's a lot of these homicides happen with like there's not a lot of rich people getting murdered. So a lot of these people, their families will do GoFundMe's and stuff like that, and things like that. I have a Tacoma Stories Facebook page as well. Okay. And that gets much more updated than my website, just because it's easier to update Facebook. Sure. But yeah, I try to get the GoFundMe's up on the Facebook page as soon as I can, just because that. But yeah, when it comes to the resilience aspect, it's amazing what people can go through and come out better sometimes. Yeah. Especially when it's not something you're, planning on. Whatnot. Well, that's the thing about these things, is that it's almost never something where you expect it. It's out of the blue, and especially like I can't even imagine having to deal. Well, I can actually imagine it having to deal with the 2020, everything that happened in 2020, and on top of that, somebody you care about got murdered. That's difficult to process. But the reason I say I can understand that is about 2 months ago, my son was stabbed here in Tacoma, and they punctured his lung, and he was in the hospital for about a week. So I can totally understand and I couldn't see him that whole time because of the whole COVID thing. Yeah. And so, he's much, much better now. He's almost fully recovered, but it was very scary there for a while. Yeah. And it is something that made me kind of rethink things a little bit when it's when it hits home like that, it makes me wonder, well, how long do I really want to do this writing about violent crime in Tacoma thing? Yeah. Well, because then there's obviously much bigger questions of what you can do to try to help protect it and those kinds of things. I mean, it's unfortunate being on the tail end of it, but I think that, like you said, telling people stories
I want to say it's a lyric from it's like you die twice. The first time when you actually die, and the second time when people forget about you, right? And
right.
I think that is important to remember. So yeah, it's not. Looking at the website, it wasn't even something I had thought about previously. But the more you think about it, it is an important thing, to keep people's stories alive.
Yeah, there are. I have had multiple emails from family members who literally say the only thing online that says what happened to their loved one is my website, because you have news sites tend to be behind paywalls, or they'll archive stuff after 90 days.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember her name or his name, but there was a homeless man who was murdered, and his estranged daughter, who hadn't talked to him in years, tried to look him up online and found out he was murdered by looking at my website.
Wow. Yeah. So if anybody's out there watching and wants to lend a hand, reach out to Tacoma Stories, right? We're about to bring on. Sounds like your husband. Your son is recovering.
Yes.
Sounds not 100% yet, but it's looking good.
Yes.
Yep. So that's really good. So we're about to bring on the second guest. Any closing thoughts?
Thanks for having me on. Your next guest, I know her. I actually wrote an article for Grit City magazine. Very
cool. Yeah, I saw that in your bio. If you'd like, you're welcome to stay on, or do you need to?
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's bring in Sierra. Well, I would say thank you for listening, but really what I should be saying is you're welcome for having this to listen to.
Thank you. You love me. You really love me.
So what is South Sound Connection? Our goal is to highlight local businesses, entrepreneurs, and community efforts for doing good in the Pacific Northwest, the PNW, and beyond. So thank you. I will say it. Thank you for listening. This is brought to you by the DYOJO podcast, which is the premier podcast for the skilled trades.
Could you turn that down just a little bit? But I was told that I could listen to the radio at a reasonable volume from 9 to 11.
Yeah, I know you're allowed to.
And All American Restoration Services out of Tacoma, Washington. They are a general contractor specializing in repairs after water and fire damages.
Hey, it's happening! Everybody stay calm! What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm! Wait! Everybody calm down!
Working with you and your insurance company to produce a positive outcome. You can listen to this, watch this every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the DYOJO YouTube. That's youtube.com/the DYOJO. If you want to know more, keep up with past episodes, those kinds of things, the DYOJO, that's DYOJO.com/SSC, South Sound Connection Live. Thank you. Good night.
I can't believe we drove around all day and there's not a single job in this town. There's nothing, nada, zip.
Yeah, unless you want to work 40 hours a week.